A warm welcome to yet another exciting installment of the E-Lounge. Today, we're talking all things leadership with author Professor Maurice Radebe on his book, The Fuel to Lead, Developing the Next Generation of Leaders. The Fuel to Lead is an inspirational story told with the intention of fueling both emerging and established leaders so they can go further than they thought possible. The book details Professor Radebe's early years in the township of Katlehong under the mentorship of his late grandfather, Umkhulu Philemon Radebe. Professor Radebe spent much of his corporate career at Sasol and Shell in executive leadership roles, and most recently as the current head and director of Wits Business School. In his book, Professor Radebe speaks frankly about the business challenges he faced at the various companies where he has served, and he also highlights the spiritual rootedness, family values, and ethical leadership as core elements for success in life as well as in business. Now, this is a story of a phenomenal, proudly South African leader who has operated on a global stage. The E-Lounge is one of our knowledge share platforms. We do hope that you will tune in and take away the knowledge. And remember that those who deserve to lead should read.
The tree that never had to fight for sun and sky, air and light, but stood out in the open plain and always got its share of rain, never became a forest king, but lived and died a scrubby thing. The man who never had to toil to gain and farm his patch of soil, who never had to win his share of sun, sky, and light and air, never became a manly man, but lived and died as he began. Good timber does not grow with ease. The stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. The further the sky, the greater the length. The more the storm, the more the strength. By sun and cold, by rain and snow, in trees and in men, good timber grows. Where the thickest lies, the forest growth. We find patriarchs of both, and they hold counsel with the stars, whose broken benches show their scars of many winds and much of strife. This is the common law of life. My guest today has gone through a lot, has triumphed and become a manly man. He holds counsel with the stars. He's a big tree that we celebrate in our nation. Prof. Maurice Radebe, the director of the School of Business at Wits. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much, Tsepo. Thank you for having me in this wonderful platform of yours. It's a wonderful platform, I must say. Thank you very much.
You've written an incredible book called The Fuel to Lead. Yes, play on your activities over the years. But before we get into The Fuel to Lead, who is Maurice Radebe?
Maurice Radebe is a young boy born in Katlehong, in the dusty street of Katlehong. And I was in Katlehong recently. Every street is tarred now. So, but during our time, we were dusty street, and grew up as a simple young man and a young boy under the tutelage of my grandfather, Philemon Radebe. And now the thing I value the most is that I'm a father, and I'm a grandfather now. And I really appreciate life even more now. Very simple guy, nothing more, nothing less, really.
Prof, you've held a lot of, what do they call it, a lot of titles in your life, a lot of, positions in life.
Yeah.
But there's a man in your life who, right at the beginning, your grandfather, Philemon Radebe,
yes,
who was always the shining light in your life. And even when you had to find your way through things, you had to work through, reconciling, his passing away. Tell us a little bit more about this old man, because I found it fascinating about how much of an entrepreneur he was right in the beginning.
Yes. he is just an amazing man. And, during the time before Gautrain was actually born, because Gautrain was born out of forced removal, by the way, just like Sophia Town. Soweto was born out of Sophia Town. So it was Gautrain. He used to work at Jamestown Clothing. That was an old factory there. As an operator, normal laborer. And something in him was said, I'm not going to settle for this. And he started entrepreneurship right inside the factory. And my grandmother would bake fat cookies, and that time now is known as amakwenya. And he started selling them there. And before you know, he was making more money than the salary he had. And then he jumped out, and then he started a small business, which grew from Gautrain. That was in the 60s, And then obviously forced removal happened, and they moved to Gautrain, and then he started a business there. What was amazing, he had about 4 brothers and a sister, and he actually was the first one to start the business, but he encouraged all of them to start businesses. And before you know, in the 60s and 70s in Gautrain, almost most of the shops in Gautrain were Radebe owned, by the different brothers. And because he had that spirit of lifting, as Bonang would say, as you rise. But not only that, he had his son. My father was the firstborn, and I came as his first grandchild. And he had this kind of making sure that we all live together, And now one needs to be very careful when you use the word patriarch, because of what it sometimes mean in a negative way. But he was that kind of a person who really made sure that we all grow together, and he instilled values. One thing I really appreciate on him, other than the fact that he provided for all of us education and good accommodation, good provision, but the values, particularly the value of integrity, he drummed it in my head. Values of hard work, values of ensuring that you care for the community in which you operate, and a deep spiritual rootedness in his life. And that stood, it's a legacy left with me, and I'm eternally grateful for his life, because I could watch it, when you're when you open your eyes from the age of 5 and there's this figure in front of you, you get 6, 7, 8, 9. You just see this person growing, becoming a very influential person in the community. And then business, and then there's one thing, he was very, very strict disciplinarian. As soon as I could count, he wanted me to come to the shop, because I think at the back of his mind, he didn't want me to spend time in the streets of the townships. And if on Saturday, I knew, when other kids were going play and going to the soccer stadiums, I was in the shop. If I miss it and dodge it, hey, when come back, he'll give me some very, very, not only tongue lashing, but real lashing. And I'm grateful for that now, because he instilled work ethic and integrity, and he was a family man, and all those values have just stood me in good stead all my life.
You've carried some of the values throughout your entire career, both in business and now in academia as a whole. Let's talk a little bit about, the value of spirituality.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to leaders? Because for me, you're finding that in business today, that sense that the leaders think, well, spirituality has no place in business.
Yes. I'm glad you answered that question, because as an academic, I study a lot about leadership. If you indulge me a little bit,
yes.
We very good in measuring IQ.
Okay.
And we've got tools to measure that, and we encourage people to develop their IQ. because we say at the beginning of our leadership theory was that we measure IQ, that will be a sign of success. And then we moved on. We said, no, IQ alone is not enough. We need to have EQ. So we moved into emotional intelligence. And we measured that, and we've started focusing a lot about as business education and leadership, focus on emotional intelligence. But we figure out also that, character is important. So we introduced the whole idea of moral MQ, moral intelligence, because we've seen that, talent will take you to the top, but character will keep you there. Yes. I don't need to remind you the corruption scandals that we've seen out of the best of our best in terms of leadership, bright minds. And that saddens me all the time when I see that. This is character. And we said, okay, we need that in order to be able to have a sustainable leadership career, because you can shoot to the top, and then if your character flaws hit you. But what is actually becoming clearer and clearer is that you need spiritual intelligence, SQ. So that's what I'm starting to push hard, even in my business education. There's a spiritual intelligence. And here, I want to emphasize that spiritual intelligence gives you what we call grit.
Okay.
It gives you, in a Finnish language, sisu is S-I-S-U, but in Sisu, it is sisu. In other words, when times are tough, when you're faced with challenges that are so difficult, that are beyond your capacity to even think through, and that are hitting you and are actually threatening your mental healthness and emotional healthness, that is where the spiritual rootedness stands you in good stead. Because then you know that, humanly speaking, you're not going to be able to go through on your own. Therefore, you need some, in my sense, spiritual power that comes from God. In my life, other people will use the different spirituality journeys that they have. And unless I actually have a sense that I need now to pray, because I and I can give you an example here. When we're building Excel Petroleum, it was flying. It was flying. And we reached a stage where we were the darlings of the oil industry, a symbol of black empowerment, and I was in the public domain. And it like we were invincible, literally invincible, I was on national TV all the time, and things were flying. And then one of our biggest customers, took us out, boom, because our credit control systems were not really measuring up with our growth level. And we were at the brink of bankruptcy. And I knew that this is beyond me. And if Excel Petroleum collapse, the black hopes, aspirations are going to collapse. And we had a group of friends of mine that we prayed together. And I went to them and said, look, guys, you need to pray with me. I'm out of my wits here. If nothing happens here, we're going to be in trouble. And I promise you that, pray with me. When I stood up from that, I had an inner conviction that this storm too shall pass.
Okay. That is incredible. That's an incredible story there.
And we did. We succeeded,
If we had to look at it and look at it properly, your grandfather was actually your first mentor.
Yeah.
Both in its spiritual sense and in what they call it, in actual fact, in guiding you throughout.
Yes.
When you started with Excel Petroleum, you actually went and asked somebody a few questions.
Yes.
Somebody who, and I find that incredible, because when men fall over, we discard them.
Yes.
We discard them, and we look at them as spent. You went and, and spent a bit of time with somebody who was important, and he gave you sound advice. which partially you didn't listen to because when you were flying high. But anyway, let's leave that one. Let's go back to who you went to go and see.
That's actually very important. May his soul rest in peace. I can say it in public because it's somebody who contributed a lot in our nation. And he was a former CEO of Pepsi, if you remember, that time. And Pepsi was also, we came just after Pepsi collapsed. Ketlam Tembo. And when Pepsi collapsed, it was such a painful thing. So remember that time when black empowerment was at its infancy. And we needed to create role models for our kids and for all of us who were coming as youngsters there. So when it collapsed, he obviously took a lot of personal pain. But I knew him very well. So I thought, before we make mistakes, history is about learning from other people's mistakes. Although, in a political field, we don't learn from history. But I thought this history is important history to learn from. So that we do not make the same mistakes that he made. And the first time I approached him, he actually said no, because he thought it was going to go into the public domain. And at that time, he was grieving the loss of that. But I persuaded him that it's not going to be it's going to be the executive team, and it's going to be an in-camera Chatham House type discussion. And he finally agreed. And he was very gracious. He was very generous by sharing the lessons that he has learned. Number of them, one was that don't grow too fast.
And watch your growth.
Watch your growth. Make sure your administrative system. That one we didn't listen to because growth was there. But there's one which actually he was very, very good, which we followed. And that's the one which there's a number of them. But one he said, you see, when I employed the first leadership team, and I'm saying this because it may sound politically incorrect, the first leadership team, I went for potential, not experience. So I went to young black talent, but that had potential, but didn't have the experience, didn't have the scars. And yet, when I started entering the field, I was competing with Coca-Cola, with an executive who experienced. And he said, I'm telling you right now, make sure that your team that you're selecting consists of both highly experienced people and then also highly potential people. And whilst it is a black economic empowerment company, obviously you must make sure that you've got the majority of people are black, but do not underestimate that diverse teams are actually high performers. Diverse race, diverse gender, diverse in terms of the way people think and the style in which they lead and conduct themselves. And just make sure you do that. Don't just go like I did. And I promise you we did that. And the last thing is don't skimp on merit, on people who actually can deliver. Because I skimped on that. And I promise you we followed him on that. We had the most diverse team, obviously predominantly black, but we had experienced executives from different major oil companies, white, black, Indian, Chinese. Everyone was there. And the fact that we were diverse made us to succeed like you never believe.
Best advice I was ever given as a leader and also called as a future leader in a few years back was hire good people and the rest take care of itself.
Exactly.
Hire good people and the rest takes care of itself. And I think that's the best advice that Ketla gave you.
Ketla gave us a very good advice.
That is incredible. But you've had to spend a lot of time traveling, building businesses and doing all sorts of other things. And speaking and everything else. But there's always been one person who has been your rock throughout and has kept the home fires intact. The old adage is that marry a good woman and you'll succeed well.
That's absolutely true, I can tell you.
But you guys met when you were in Teflop.
Yeah.
Tell us more about Mama Joyce.
No. Now you're going to get me speaking the whole day. Oh, Joyce is my darling, I always say to young people, marry young and marry when you're all both naive and you owe nothing, and both poor. Because sometimes when you marry when you've already got something, you're not too sure whether the person loves you or loves what you have. But Mama Joyce, we met as young students at Teflop, and it was great. And then we decided that this is time to go and get married. And we married young. I was 25, she was 24. And I promise you, that was the best decision I ever made. Because, you see, they always say, in fact, I want to really, really destroy this thinking that is only behind a successful man there's a woman. No, Joyce plays all the roles. When it's time to be behind me, to push me, when I'm really tired and realize, make sure that she stands behind me and says, I'm covering your back. Your back is covered. Yeah. When it's time to be besides me, where I now need to be held by my hand and walk with me, she knows that's the time to do that. And when it's time to be in front, when I'm confused and she needs to lead and guide, particularly on the family matters and children, she takes the leadership role. So she knows all the time which side of me she needs to be at the right time, at the right moment. And that is an important principle, because we tend to think that they're only behind. But no, in my case, no. They are behind, besides, and in front.
Yes.
And Joyce has done that over the last 37 years of marriage. And I promise you, if you're a young leader out there, and I know the temptations are so high for you that when you become successful and then you drop the waffle for your youth and you you go, and a lot of my friends would like to say, hey, I've got a young wife now. I say, hey, but yes. There's benefit now. Both of us are in our over 60s now. Oh, man. Just sitting on TV, and you watch TV at night, and the two of you, the kids are gone, there's an empty nest. You've got a friend and a company. You'll fall asleep, and it reminds you, so Puzilama Pilis. Just that reminder. That's so critical, because you can sleep. As you grow old, you need to depend on supplements and all these kinds of things that you need to take. But she's there.
Yes.
And she sacrificed her career. She was a high-fly executive in Old Mutual. And she was reaching a stage where she was really starting to crack the glass ceiling. But when the kids became teenagers, and both of us were not there, and the danger of them actually going astray, she made a decision. Not me. Yes. She made a decision. No. I need to, if I were to use the soccer language, to mark these kids. But mark, Make sure I drop them at school. Make sure I'm with them in extramural activity. Make sure I check them, I talk to them. And that was the best decision. Our kids have come up, thank God, young adults, and they're professionals, they're working, and you can see their career is really growing. And wow. Eternally grateful for
That's
her.
Incredible. But can we also speak about her role in your spiritual life?
Oh, that is fundamental.
In your spiritual life.
Even when I was coming here, I said, I'm going to a TV station, man, and I'm a little bit nervous, man. Pray for me.
Yes.
She prayed for me. If I'm going to negotiate any major deal, I tell her.
Yeah.
I say, I need your wisdom and counsel here. We'll talk. She's bright. Yeah?
Yeah.
She will show me the risk and say, and I said, but I need you to pray now. Whether is this a right deal or wrong deal?
Yes.
Because not every deal may look lucrative, but sometimes down the road things can go horribly wrong. And I've been there before. I've done business here. And had just ability to have, even my daughters, they call it, she's got a speed line too. They also, so, and she supports me in ministry. She supports all the initiatives that we do that is relating to ministry. And whether it's a church ministry or whether it's just higher purpose work that we do, like ULP, Unleashing Leadership Potential, which is a higher purpose work, which is my assignment in life. She knows my calling, she knows my assignment, she knows my purpose. That one of them is to develop the next generation of leaders that will be ethical and competent. And thirdly, have a passion to make a difference and be a force for good in this country and in this world. She knows that that's there. And we use personal financial resources. She doesn't complain about that. She encourages us when we invest in ULP, or even when we invest in our church ministry. So she is the anchor of that. And that is so important because, if we're walking this journey and we're not in agreement, you're not going to be successful, But we're always in agreement on important, fundamental value things. We disagree, like she's very, very, as I say, smart person. And on a number of issues when it's either we go this way, business-wise, or we argue about different activities that we involve in. And she expresses view very, very clearly and unapologetically about that. And I've learned to listen, and also strong-willed. She's strong-willed. But we sometimes agree to disagree. But on fundamental values of spirituality, fundamental values of family, fundamental values of ensuring that we make a contribution to this nation in an area of our assignment, as I say to young leaders, please, very early in your life, figure out your lane and run on your lane at your own speed for your own destination. And once we know we're not on the same lane when it comes to that, both in terms of our spiritual rootedness. In fact, I would dare say she's much more spiritual rooted than me.
So you've had an interesting career.
Yeah.
And, she's always been by your side.
Yeah.
But from the days of working at the laminate factory to World Vision to Shell to Excel and then ultimately to Sasol.
Yeah.
There's always been this niggly thing that sits inside you that, but it at any one point in time, it crossed paths with you.
Yeah.
The issue of wanting to develop people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beyond what you learned from your grandfather, where does this thing come from? Or maybe let's tell the story in full first of the little bits and pieces where you at World Vision, you were given a chance to develop people. And then you moved on to Shell as a CSR person. And then you just grew,
Yeah.
There's the technical bits but you always go back to this thing.
It's absolutely true what you're saying. Starting really even from laminate industries.
Yes.
That was my first job. It was an important job because I joke about it because whenever I pass the Zinal Road, I say, yeah, and family youngins with many mali you buying a low ball. But even there, very soon at laminate industry, I very soon got involved in. It was a time of a steep apartheid and oppression.
Yes.
You're talking 84 at that time. And very soon I was passionate about developing people, and really soon I was involved even in labor, organizing There was no union. I tried to organize a union in order to develop people there because I realized that the ceiling of apartheid was really frustrating people. But while I was working in laminate industries, we started a youth club in Katlo.
Okay.
And that was developing young people because we just came back from the university and the townships were in trouble. If you remember, 84.
84 was us ramping up to 86 years.
Yeah. And the young people were losing direction, and we started a youth club that continuously focused young people into, while we're fighting the struggle, guys, it is important that you yourself develop your talents, your gift, your expertise, your experience, and we started. And then World Vision really gave me an opportunity to do that. I used to do that without being paid for it. And then World Vision basically said, you're going to do this. And we want you to be full-time, initially first as a field worker, to go into the communities, start all the community projects, whether it's sewing and knitting for our mama, literacy programs. And I gravitated towards literacy programs. And classrooms. So the education was already so they ended up actually giving me all those programs that has to do with education. Okay. And then I realized, oh yes, I don't know education because I was a science student, you must understand. And I finished with applied maths and physics. So I actually enrolled at Wits. That was the first time it's not recorded in much, but actually I'm a qualified teacher. So I did a 2-year diploma at Wits, but I focused my major was adult education. Okay. And that is when then I learned how to unlock people's potential, particularly adults, and how to use experiential learning as a tool to fast track continuous learning for people. And that was a setup for me 2 years. So I had a theoretical framework, but I had a passion for it. Okay. And then Shell also just gave me an opportunity to do that. Particularly, Shell gave me an opportunity to go out and give bursaries. They used to. I was in charge of the bursaries. Okay. But people used to give bursaries here in Gauteng. And I said, no, we need to go up into the rural areas. At that time, to Venda, Kazankulu, the whole of Limpopo. At that time, it was still Bantu stance. And that's why I met Professor Marwala as a young person there, And it was unbelievable that. And then within, very soon, then Sasol put me into the business. Okay. Not Sasol, Shell. Yes. But when I was running service station, building them, the passion to develop using, I'm saying now to when I look back at my life, is that use every job. Yes. First, spend the first 18 months to 2 years, get it under your belt, make sure you know it, and then start using the job to live up your assignment in life.
That's powerful, that.
Because if you, and I look at my job, whether I became at Shell, I grew very fast, and my career was just flying. And at every time, for instance, when I was a property manager, I would look at the opportunity. How do I actually, when we've now found this site, we've developed it, how can we make sure the community around it? So that corporate social responsibility instilled by my grandfather, because when he was there in Katlehong, I still meet old people now, old system, yes. So that corporate social responsibility, we call it sobriety, he applied for it. And when I became a regional manager at Shell, same thing. We would go and have community programs. Where it really manifested itself, that's why one of the secrets why Excel became so successful. When we started Excel, we had what we call a hero concept. We wanted to make the owner of a garage to be a community leader and make him a hero in his community. So I turned the whole corporate social investment program upside down. Instead of us as Excel big company going to a community and then give a check to the community, I would go to the local Excel dealer and say, you going to be the person. We will give money to you. You match it with whatever you can, but you will be the one who hand over the check.
The check, yes.
In the community, not me as a CEO of Excel. And that was one of the powerful marketing opportunity for such that it became very popular, our service stations, because the dealer, or now we call them franchisee, became if there's a local school, instead of us going to a local school and give bursaries or we give it to him. We call them community heroes. And in that way, it actually, when I was at Sasol, it was just natural. We became the MD of Sasol Oil. But every time, even when I went to become the GEC member, the whole corporate social responsibility was given to me. Why? Simple question. Use your job as a vehicle to live up your assignment. If you don't do that, then the job becomes dreary, difficult. It's like you're going there for a paycheck. Yes. And then you wake up in the morning, you ask yourself, why am I going to? You don't wake up with a song in my heart and says, I'm going to live my purpose. Every day when I wake up, I says, Lord, help me to live my purpose today. Because to live your purpose, you live it on a daily basis.
I can see it out there, somebody watching this and asking, but Prof, I don't even know what my purpose is.
Yeah.
And you're saying to me, and I've got bills to pay at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And you're saying to me, I must try and use my job to live my purpose. I'm only trying to get through this month's rent.
That's true. That's true.
And maybe we what do they call it? Sometimes we become, some people would say, like, we become not detached, but how do you bring it down to the lowest level? And you speak about it in the book, about the fact that one has to find their passion.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely true that the people struggle with the purpose. At this moment now, I actually have found a way of, when I speak to my MBA students, I say, when you live here, you must have chosen one of the 17 SDG goals.
Okay.
And then you choose one of them, and then you basically say to yourself, I'm going to dedicate all my professional life on one or two.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have time to go through the 17 of them, but I'm going to give you an assignment to everybody who's listening here.
Yeah.
Go and study 17 SDG goals and choose one. Because purpose, sometimes we mystify it.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
For instance, number 1 says end poverty.
Yes.
Number 2 says end hunger. Mm-hmm. Mine, because I'm an energy man, is on number 7, which says your job is to provide clean and affordable energy. Mm-hmm. And that is when I looked at my job, I said, okay, my job is to provide clean and affordable energy. What do I need to do every day to make sure that I provide clean and affordable? So I'm saddened now with the energy crisis we're having, but I haven't given up, because we still have 600 million people in this continent that do not have energy. So choose what resonate with you. There's things which resonate with you. If it's not the SDG goals for senior people, I always push them on SDG. But I promise you, there's something in you that either makes you angry when you see it, if it's injustice, or it's poor children there that nobody looks after them, or it's unemployed people that are there, or it's young people that are there. There's something that makes you feel sad or angry.
Yes.
And as life would have it, it will give you this relevant experience to be able to address it. I've got a young person now that I'm mentoring at ULP. He's been a drug addict. Yeah. We helped him, rehabilitated him. And I said, joking, your assignment is to go in life now, to go and help all addicts. And he has taken that passion. He's collecting all of the addicts there in Katlehong and Windmill. He's training them. He's got patience. He knows
Okay.
you know, and sometimes they make an appointment and they go and he knows how to mark. You know, now it's his life purpose because he's just come out of a very, very, very addicting. Nyaopo was about to destroy his life. And we at ULP now are backing him. We're giving him the resources, we're giving him the capacity, we're giving everything we can. So there must be something that's happening in your environment that is not right, that you need to. I always say one thing. Your purpose is to leave this world a little bit better than you found it. A little bit better than you found it. You see, right now what you're doing is your purpose.
It hasn't been all a bed of roses.
Oh, yeah, it's been tough.
And you told the story, you know, with its graphicness and everything else. And let's start right at the back. You moved to Nkandla.
Yes.
And, you know, you end up in a stick fight.
Yeah.
And I think we got to talk about adaptability in this case. You know, you always find yourself to be adaptable.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, you move to Nkandla, you find yourself in a stick fight.
Yeah.
And, you know, something that I always find quite strange when I do interviews and people walk into a room and the questions start rolling. They forget one simple thing. It's only the experience that they have that can get them out of what they're encountering now. Then they start going in a different direction. And I always say, use what you have.
Exactly.
But you end up in a stick fight.
Yeah. Very, very, very interesting. Here's my Katlehong boy. You go to KwaZulu Natal and Nkandla, and then you go to a higher primary school. I was going there for standard 5 then, which is grade 7. And then obviously that's the time where, you know, we all know when you grow up in a township that after school, there's always a fight. Yeah. And then obviously, there's a culture in Zulu, you know, when I greet you, hello Tsepo, you know, you shake your hand.
Yes.
Yeah. But Naksula, before I even know, you know, I says I can beat you, you know. And so it happens, you know. Here am I from the township, and then all of a sudden, hey, Naksula, man, no, you can't. And the guys obviously know how to use sticks. I don't know how to use. I've never used sticks. But before in Katlehong, I used to belong in a boxing club. Yeah. And my boxing coaches taught me, you know, how to jab and how to duck and how to hit. Yeah. So I had the skill.
Yes.
Which needed to be used. So that's why it's a very important question, because sometimes you have to change the rules of the game in which you're operating in order to win the game. Yes. You know, if you're not good at rugby, change it to cricket. If you're not good at cricket, take it to soccer. That's exactly what I did. I realized, okay, I'm not going to even take the stick because the guys were giving me the sticks. Yes. So take the sticks and go and fight with them. I said, no, I'm not taking the sticks. I don't know. He's going to beat the hell out. And then I just stood like this. And the guy would whip me once. And then by the second time when he lifts it, I'm in. Yeah. I go in close range like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson close range. And you must understand he's got sticks like that. So his face is open for me to punch, man. You know when you're young, as soon as you punch the nose and then they start bleeding, the game is over. Yeah. And that's how I survived. And from then, all the boys were scared of me. And then it gave me an opportunity to learn stick fighting. Yeah. Because then I'll call them, teach me how to do that. And I learned it over time. And then over time now I could also have my stick fighting. But if I didn't use what I had, the skill I had, I would have been, you know, a boy that always get chased away, and my ego would have been destroyed, my confidence would have been destroyed. I would have been calling Sizulu Pelak, no, you kwala. Yes, you're out.
You're out, and you shall not be respected whatsoever.
You become a social outcast. Yeah.
You get sent to boarding school. Mm-hmm. Because at that point in time, your grandfather believed that you...
Yeah.
And then you end up in, what do they call it, in politics, in boarding school.
Yes.
which ultimately gets you expelled, or what's the phrase that's used in the book?
capital punishment.
Yes. But you've always been able to adapt. Because every change that you've had, that to a lot of people would have destroyed them.
Yeah.
You go to the next school in Marion Hill, and there you find a world in which you can exist with everything else, and you build new relationships. But all of that has always been your signature. Everywhere you went, you've always built relationships, and those relationships have shown up time and again in your life. The value and the power of relationships, because in today's business sits a world in which people think they can just exist by themselves.
No, very important. That Nkamane experience was, looking back, extremely valuable. Extremely valuable because I spent, say, 12 years of my life as a township boy. 2 years in Kandla, deep rural area, man, where we go heading cattle, go and hunt, go and swim at Mhlatuze in a river. Even my daughter laugh at the way I swim, because I swim the way I swim. They say, no, do a double stroke. I said, I don't know. I know the river swimming. The river swimming, with your double stroke, the river will take you out. It will take you out. No. You need to swim upstream, which is this way.
Yes.
So you learn all these things. And at the same time, I'm from Katlehong. So we're learning a boarding school. There's kids from Tembisa, Davidton, Katlehong, Soweto. There's kids from Kandla, Nongoma, Mahlabatini. There's always tension now, And that's where having been exposed in different areas stands you in good stead. Because I could speak Netsotsidale as a Katlehong. But I could also speak the language of the guys from rural areas. And normally in those days, there was serious fights in boarding school between the two. And then there would be guys from Kwamashu, Depe, Nazo, So I actually, in terms of relationship management, I really learned that because I could relate with all of them, and I actually became a glue. If, in fact, when it became a fight, I would be a mediator between the two. So my relationship skills developed there, my interpersonal skills developed, conflict management skills developed there, and I actually. Obviously, then 76 happened, and every young person is politically conscientized. We lead a strike. We end up getting fired. But fortunately, I was given a chance to write the exam, because I had to make a big choice when my grandfather came there, and he was about to take me, but they said, you can either take him or you punish him yourself. And thank God I made that decision that he punished me. But then I went to Marion Hill, and I was much more mature there. And I developed these huge leadership skills in Kamane. And then in Marion Hill, within a short space of time, I emerged as a leader also there. And I met with my best friend, Umbusi Lamin. And our relationship became so great. Even today, we're relating quite well because he was a kind of role model. So coming back in business now, this is what we call stakeholder relations. You see that if you do not have in any business, like in yours, a very good stakeholder relation management team or managers or a department, whatever is part of the corporate social investment or corporate or public affairs, whatever you call it, you have to have stakeholder relations. And you as a CEO of the company, that's your primary role. Internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. You see, now I'm running the business school, I'm managing both. And since I've been in a business school right now, I mean, the stakeholders that have come to business school are from your own organizations, the banks, the energy companies, and because I manage those stakeholders. So stakeholder relations and relationship management, and then translate that into mutually beneficial partnershiping. Partnershiping skill is critical in business and in leadership to form partnership that are mutually beneficial, where value exchange is good. So yeah, that skill developed from Nkamane days, right through to right now in my business life, it's standing me in good stead. I do a lot of partnerships. When I do a deal, I check. Also, selecting the right partner becomes a skill in itself. You know, if you get into business with the wrong partner, you get into trouble. So yeah, you're right. Relationship management is a skill that we need to teach early in life of our leaders.
You then get to a point where you're turning 50.
Yeah.
And, you've built a career, an incredible one for that matter. And you are part of what they call it, a big group of people that go on a strategic retreat. But strangely enough, in the middle of all of that, you retreat for real. You go into the bush. And the question comes up, what do you want to do when you're 60?
Yeah.
And the three words appear.
Unleashing leadership potential. I still remember sitting in that tree. They flooded my heart like you never believe. Never had those words, and then I started writing them down on a piece of paper because the facilitator said, do write it down, whatever comes to your mind, and then unpack it and then come and share it. And I did that, and I wrote it, fill up a whole page. And then it clicked on me that I'm 50 now, but actually I've been unleashing leadership potential all my life. Whether it's a youth club in Katlehong, whether it's when I was at Shell, we started a program which still exists now called Livewire. It's a small and medium enterprise program. Whether Excel itself was a unleashing potential of black talent and all. And I looked at this and said, and when I finished my degree in maths and physics, I used to teach Saturday schools, maths and science. And there was an organization called SACED, Protec, all those organizations. And I realized I've been doing this now, but I need now to systematize it and really make it in a structured way so that we can scale it and it becomes my life purpose. I thought I'll do it after 60. But as soon as I left it, I had to chat with my wife, and my wife agreed with it. And then we just started from my home, as you know, with 5 young people, mentoring them. And the rest is history now. ULP is a big mentorship circle for young black talent in this nation. Not only black, by the way. All races of this country.
That's incredible. But then that builds up to you now saying, but I want to give more, and your career ultimately is going back to become an academic. It's just been incredible. But before we go there, as time is about to run out, I can hear a youngster there who then gets hold of this book and reads it, and then they ask themselves a question of, you have always been able to be an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You've always juggled a bit where you can create magic within a company that you're either a shareholder or not a shareholder, but you can also create magic from you starting your own thing and building up from there.
Yes.
Now, a lot of youngsters, they struggle with whether it's one or the other. Is it really one or the other?
No, it is not. And that's a myth I actually want to spend a lot of my time destroying.
Yes.
Because when we grew up, you must understand, when we grew up in township, the people who were, use the word rich, were only those who were running their own businesses. The rest
shops.
of, shops, retail, Bomaponya, and all this, the generation of, led by Nafkok, by our legendary Sam Mutsonyane. So, and I even remember my grandfather used to say, I used to be proud, I'm self-employed. I'm no cash from loan, man. That was the kind of philosophy. And we developed that, and we need to destroy that myth, because great, we need to have entrepreneurs to start businesses, grow them. Job creation is critical in this nation, and we know that sector is the one that will help us to solve the problem of unemployment, or at least make a dent on it. That is why at Wits Business School now I'm starting a center for entrepreneurship. But also what we need to push is that you can be wealthy when you are in an organization, as long as you add value in that organization. And you actually create new businesses within a big organization. Yes. Like at Sasol, for instance, there was Sasol Oil, but by Sasol Oil buying Excel, we grew Sasol Oil from just being a wholesale business into a massive retail business. That's why now you actually see the all Sasol service station mushrooming through it. But it was, I always like to use we, because I believe in royal we, and I know the person. But I was in the forefront of actually rolling out the retail network. That was a new business in Sasol. As a team coming from Excel, we said we're going to build this business. And we did. And in that way, we created jobs. We created lots of small and medium. What is a service station? It's a small and medium enterprise, which employs anything between 20, 30 people. And the multiplier effect, we know in South Africa that if one person works, at least there's 6 people dependent on him. So and there was an entrepreneurship operating within a big conglomerate like Sasol. And we need to do both. And we need to demystify. I remember when I was working for Sasol, and I was really empowered to be there. And one young man kept on nagging me, come and join my empowerment group. And I kept on listening to him. And he was sure that, no, I'm not making money as an executive. He will help me make money. Because what we're missing, and that's why I'm pushing so hard now, that's why I'm at business school, because there's the opportunity for you to create wealth in a big corporation which is listed like yours. It's there. First you get your salary, you get your bonus, you get an incentive scheme, you get a long-term incentive scheme, short-term, and then you get shares, man. So the wealth you can create is massive, provided you also add significant value. And that is why. So this young man finally, I think he wanted to meet me. I'm doing this joke. And then I said, look, I'm tired, man, but if you really want to come and meet me at my house. And when he walked into my house, he said, you've already been empowered. I don't know what he saw in my heart. From that day he left. The point is, he thought, you can only be wealthy if you go and start your own hustling and spaza. And yet we're leaving, the levers of power are in this massive organization. See, I'm very proud, for instance, that Mary Vilakazi is now the CEO of First Rand. Because I know when I was the CEO of MD of Sasol Oil, which is a subsidiary of the group, the power you have to change people's life is massive. I mean, your role here as a COO is massive. You're changing people's life. And we need to make sure we promote both intra-I and intra simultaneously with the same vigor, and we equip our people to do that. Because not all of us are going to be entrepreneurs in the E1, but most of us can be entrepreneur with an I, entrepreneur. And we need to promote that. And then also one of the things that I really, as an academic now, want to discourage is when young people say, but no, I don't need to be educated to be a businessman. I said, yeah, my grandfather was not educated. He was a standard 5. And I have a huge respect for him. But listen to me, choose the league you want to play for. If you're not educated, you can start a business and build it quite well. But you may play in Chapik's league or Matsipi league, but if you want to play in a bigger league, better get education, because the world is complex and it's fast. You're going to go into professional soccer league. You're going to go, and you want to play in UAE. You want to play in global stage. You better get education. So we must not also promote this whole concept that you don't need education to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. We have to kill that myth because it condemns all of us into small and medium enterprises. Yeah. You know, and then we can drive a Benz. That's fine. We can drive a Mercedes or BMW. But what impact are you going to have to the world? Because you need to understand geopolitics. You need to understand economics, so that when you run a business, and you can actually rise and actually be an industry leader. You see, when I was in the energy industry, I ended up actually chairing the whole South African Petroleum Industry Association. Yeah. Because now I understood connecting the dots of the industry. So I was not only just a business person, but I influenced the regulatory framework, influenced how the industry should be moving, how it should be. But you can do that with education. If I didn't go to business school and do an MBA and all those things, I would not have been able to do. I probably would have been running a garage, running it successfully, make a lot of money out of it, but it's fun. But you end up there. Mm-hmm. Are you with me? We need more people that are going to be entrepreneurs.
Learning, earning, and growth.
Yes.
And I like the sequence.
Yeah.
Learning, earning, and returning.
Yeah.
You emphasize the learning as first.
Yes. I emphasize learning, and I learned this from a friend of mine here, and in fact, Simon Sussman, who developed Woolworths.
Okay.
And he was sharing at ULP, and he said, there are roughly 3 segments of one's life. Yeah. And they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but roughly that's it. First 30 years, invest in learning. Okay. I tell my daughters now, just learn as much as you can, you know. Everything that you can learn, both formal and informal, and continuous learning and lifelong learning, learn. Because every learning will stand you in good stead. The second 30 years, you must spend time earning. So you have to work hard. You need to think about, how am I going to create value that will stand me in good stead after my 30 years of earning? Could be through a career, could be through building your own business, all sorts of things. But work hard and earn, and then save in the process. And then the last 30 years, which is where I am now, is returning. It's a season where you need to take all this learning and earning experience and plow it back to the next generation, so that you give a baton to the next generation. In fact, as I was working on, a friend of mine was saying, we need and I said, I'm going to quote him, give our next generation a chalice, a good chalice, not a poison chalice. I said, oh, that's a great one. So you give them, and that's the season I am. And people ask me, what are you doing at business school? Because a lot of them say, you could be doing other deals and you could be still great. And I said, listen, you reach a stage in life, is how many chickens can you really eat?
How many chickens can you really eat?
Yeah, you reach a stage in life, how many cars can you really drive?
Yes.
Yeah. How many? I mean, the material stuff is good, and I'm not the one who told. But you reach a stage where you say, now at this season of my life, what is the most important thing that I need to do?
What's your legacy?
You're getting into the legacy stuff. And you move from success to significance. Yeah. Success is about accumulation. Significance is about giving. And this is a season in my life. That's why I went to the business school. And I said, strategically, most of the people that come out of the business school are going to be leaders. Because I remember I'm still running my leadership. Thank God all the mentors are running it day to day now. So that gives me an opportunity to say, on a large scale, and impacting some of the brightest, and knowing that in 1997 I was there when Nick Benadell, who started this institution, was there. And the career they boosted gave him. I said, no, in this part of my life now, I must leverage And leverage is about maximum use of your opportunities. So if I have to give now, I have to give at business school. And it's amazing in this last 3 years, the impact one has had. But all of a sudden, it just opened the global impact now in terms of giving, because I'm a kind of an interesting academic, because I'm not an academic, and actually I've coined a new word, and maybe I'm not me coining it. I'm calling myself a pracademic.
Okay.
Pracademic. Okay. Because I've got practice for more than 3 decades to 4 decades, and now I'm in an academic sense. And they decided to call me professor. So thank God you give me professor. I don't know. But they say your experience is so valuable, because all the business schools are now questioning themselves. Are we going to be an academic ivory towers things and where we produce knowledge for knowledge's sake? Or we're going to produce knowledge that will have an impact in society? So I'm now adding huge value in the academic world by saying, hey, this is what the world needs. I've been there. I've been seeing you guys producing MBA, and I've been interviewing, or masters in management or marketing, and I've been interviewing them and employing them, and I have to start from scratch, teaching them.
To rebuild them.
You know? So let's actually change curriculum to address this. And then all of a sudden, because I am running a business school that is well known globally, I find myself speaking in global platforms, because everyone is talking impact now and relevance of higher learning. And yet 10, 15 years ago, it was, no, you must be on cloud 9, you know. You must be an academic. You write your article. Even my book, as I wrote it very intentionally like this, so that it's accessible. Instead of being an academic book that is going to be read by a few people and is published on a very prestigious publication. But who reads it? It's only the few academics, maybe 1,000 people in the world, where you want this thing to be massively read by and that's the value that I'm adding. And I didn't see it when I was coming in, but amazing impact that now everyone is talking about. We need academics. In fact, business school needs to be led by business leaders rather than pure academics. Well, I have huge respect for scholars. I mean, they are smart, and I see them there, and I work with them. But the most important thing that they need help is to jump from knowledge for knowledge's sake into knowledge for impact, and that's the bridging that I'm busy doing now. And so it's giving back to mankind in that sense.
Ladies and gentlemen, after all of that, all I could do is thank the man, the myth, and the legend, Prof. Maurice Radebe. Thank you for taking the time to be with us, the author of the book, Fuel to Lead. I hope you go and get yourself a copy. It's a riveting read. From me, Mutukwa.
Yes.
Oh,
sure.
I thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. I really thank you. Thank you. You're doing wonderful work. Gautrain is a great initiative. Please build more Gautrains. We need our public sector transportation to be really improved in South Africa.
No, we're looking forward to it. Thank you, bro.
Right.